Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island, Story 22. Okay, you still with me? That's good. Now, not too long after the John Dewey situation, with my new crew from 30 Rock, someone disarmed Original for the 12 gauge. There was some foul play involved, and if I'm not mistaken, this boy well-known goon from Crosstown has something to do with it, only because his name was synonymous with taking things that didn't belong to him. Shortly after Original was disarmed, the 12 gauge took a life. One day I came outside to the bad news that a kid by the name of Bernard, which was Rome's cousin, had died. He was strapped in front of building 3 with the 12 gauge when the police rolled up. Everyone took off running. He took off toward the other side of the projects, but once he got in between 2 parked cars, the boy fell and the gun went off. Well, at least that was the official police story, but the streets believed the police murdered him. There were rumors that his face was blown off and that it would have been foolish of him to have the shotgun on him with the barrel facing up. It was a tragic moment in the hood, one that everyone remembered. Yeah, I know. It sounds like what's going on in the millennium. Police brutality in Marlboro was common practice in the 1980s. Most of the kids I grew up with took a serious ass whooping from one another at one point in their life. Something that probably made all of us a little tougher, and there was no one to complain to. Until today, I believe my project was a bona fide setup for young black men living in New York City. Since it was surrounded by white people, our human rights was violated constantly, especially by white police officers. The young black boys that I called friends in Marlboro were constantly harassed and arrested. Most of us had criminal records by the time we were teenagers. Staying out of trouble was difficult, which is the reason why I wanted to put on K-Day of Inspiration in 2007. After becoming a mature adult, most of my friends and I made it out. Although it damaged us psychologically, most of us went on to be successful. It wasn't easy dodging the corrupt and racist police. This made us angry and rebellious young boys. There were 2 detectives that you hated to hear were on you, Bigfoot and Wild Boy. They were homicide and robbery detectives, and when they were spotted in the hood, you knew somebody was in trouble. As a matter of fact, those are the 2 that put the handcuffs on Rel and myself when I caught my first case. It was a constant cat and mouse chase that at times turned deadly. You had to be tough as a young boy growing up in Marlboro, because them police was on you all day, every day. And as we got older, the shit got worse. This is the end of Story 22, the Don Kawand story. Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island, Story 23. Alright, now in the summer of 1983, I had my first job before my freshman year in high school. I would work for housing, doing maintenance work around Marlboro projects, mostly picking up trash and keeping the grounds clean. When I wasn't working or hanging out at 30 Rock, I'd be chilling with my girl, my first love, a short, pretty young chocolate girl that I referred to as my chocolate cupcake. She lived on the other side, but hung out with a chick that lived on mine, at least when we met. Before hooking up with her in the summer of '83, we actually had a short romance the previous winter. One winter night while hanging out in front of Building 5, where I live, I spotted her coming out of a nearby building. I watched her every move, and I had to say something to her. The conversation led to me walking her home, and she became my girlfriend. But only a week later, while chilling with her in her apartment, she slipped me a breakup note. Broke my heart. We wouldn't see each other again until the summer of '83. I was on the back of a dump truck working for maintenance, doing my summer youth job, when I spotted her. She had put on a little weight in all the right places. She had some hips and a fatty below her waist. Her long jet black hair complemented her complexion. I was 14 that summer, pulling up on my 15th birthday. And after she became my girlfriend for the second time, we did play a little house while Mama Love worked her job from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Shortly after Mama Love left for work, she would pull up and make me breakfast and then play my wife for the rest of the day. It was rare to see me without her that summer. We spent a lot of time together, even holding hands when moving through the projects. And you can always spot us sitting on a bench near her building after dark. She hung out with a few females that called themselves the classy females, but it was nothing classy about these hood girls. But eventually would grow into be beautiful young ladies. But anyway, for the first 8 months, me and my little mama were like two lovebirds. Although I was in love, them high school girls had my eyes wandering. I never cheated on her, but felt the urge close to the end of the school year. Before my freshman year in high school was out, she started getting in a lot of trouble. One day she tells me some girls from CI was scheming on her at her school, Reynolds Junior High School, which was not too far from Marlboro. Yes, even the females had beef from Marlboro and Coney Island back in them days. So when she had some concerns, I agreed to be there when she got out at 3 o'clock. And that's what I did. The very next day after cutting 8th period class, took a trip to her school. As a youngster with heart, went by myself with only a knife in my pocket. I watched every kid come out of the school but her. She wasn't there. We had a very big argument, and it gave me a reason to fall back even more. But before the two of us would call it quits, I'd meet a kid from Coney Island that once had eyes on her, creating an awkward moment when we were face to face in Lafayette High School. This is the end of Story 23, the Don Kawand story. Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island, Story 24. Now my sophomore year, 84 moving into 85, I would run into and meet a cool dude from CI, a short muscular kid named Wayne, aka Jamaican Wayne. We had a shop class together. I believe he was a transfer from another school because I had never really seen or noticed him until this one day he came to class with blood all over his body. He entered the class late and screamed at the teacher as he took a seat. Somehow we got to chatting about a fight he had with a man at the dry cleaners on his way to school. During our conversation, my chocolate cupcake came up after he discovered I lived in Marlboro. Jamaican Wayne was surprised to find out that she was my shorty because he had a thing for her way before we met. I'm not sure if he knew who I was before this conversation or not, but he gave me a great deal of respect, probably because he admired that I had my hands all over someone that he once fantasized about. But anyway, I didn't let his previous fantasies about her affect our relationship. We took an instant liking to one another, and before long, he was inviting me to CI. We'd get drunk and talk about everything all day at his crib at Old Dwyer's. Old Dwyer's Gardens is a 6-building housing complex located on West 33rd between Surf Avenue and Mermaid Avenue. There were a couple of skyscrapers that were very nice on the inside. Some of the apartments had private balconies. Wayne's apartment had a balcony, and since he lived up high, it provided a really good view of CI. I felt comfortable when we maneuvered through the streets. Some knew me and some didn't, but I always felt at home. Wayne was a cool, jolly dude and friendly with everybody. Close to the end of the school year, Jamaican Wayne invited me to a hooky party in Flatbush. There was a female that he was cool with that had the house to herself during the daytime, and that's when I met my big bro Supreme. Primo and Jamaican Wayne moved through life as cousins. Primo was tight with this pretty boy from Flatbush named Austin, also at the hooky party. And this boy was cooler than the other side of the pillow. It was crazy because I found myself hanging out with Wayne and Supreme and CI more often than I was in Marlboro. I'm sure they both knew about the rivalry between the two hoods, but no one cared. Primo and I would grow closer after catching a couple of cases with Wayne, one in which we left our victim in very bad shape and traumatized dozens of high school kids after putting my razor blade to work. This is the end of Story 24, the Don Kawand story. Don't forget to subscribe, click like, and then share because somebody needs to hear this.